This presentation will be about the Black Panther Party and the Black Consciousness movement. Sound good? Okay, good. Let's do this. In the 1960s, racial violence was heating up, although it was never really cold in the first place. It was getting real now. There was rioting, police attacking peaceful protesters everywhere. It was a mess. In the midst of all this, a few people stood up to lead the black community in their crusade for civil rights, but in the end, they went the way of all revolutionaries. In 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated for leaving the Nation of Islam. 3 years later, in 1968, Martin Luther King would follow Malcolm and be assassinated. Now, with everything that was happening, a lot of people began to be very disillusioned with the concept of peaceful protest. In 1966, the year after Malcolm X's death, a new militant organization in the civil rights theater, if you will, would be founded. The Black Panther Party was founded as a black nationalist movement by Bobby Seale and Huey Newton. No, not that Huey. This Huey. Drawing straws, Seale became the party's chairman, and Newton became the Minister of Defense. Though predominantly a black nationalist movement, Maoism, anti-fascism, anti-imperialism, Marxist-Leninism, revolutionary socialism, and anti-racism were other things that the Black Panther Party stood for. Black nationalism is the advocacy of separate national status for black people, especially in the US. Maoism is the thought that the lower class is the bulwark of the revolution, not the middle class, as Marx said. Marxism-Leninism is the classical communist ideology. Revolutionary socialism is the thought that a revolution is needed in order to change society. And anti-fascism, anti-imperialism, and anti-racism kind of speak for themselves, and if they don't, boy, have you not been paying attention in Mr. Jozz's class. Now that we're explaining the beliefs of the Black Panther Party, I think we should turn our attention, for just a short while, to what Black Consciousness and the Black Consciousness movement was. Black Consciousness is the awareness of one's identity as a black person, especially as a basis for political grouping or movement. Specifically, though, the Black Consciousness movement attacked what they saw as traditional white values, especially the condescending values of white people of liberal opinion. They refused to engage white liberal opinion on the pros and cons of black consciousness, and emphasized the rejection of white monopoly on truth as a central tenet of their movement. This philosophy at first generated disagreement among black anti-apartheid activists within South Africa, but it was soon adopted by most as a positive development. Many of these themes are present in a lot of the speeches that Huey Newton gives throughout his career with the Black Panther. While its philosophies live on to this day, the Black Consciousness movement was, as an effective actual movement, kind of destroyed. By 19 of June 1976, 123 key members had been banned and confined to remote rural districts in South Africa. In 1977, all Black Consciousness movement-related organizations were banned, many of its leaders arrested, and their social programs dismantled under provisions of the newly implemented Internal Security Amendment Act. Keep in mind, this was all going down in South Africa. Enough of that, though, let's get back to the Black Panther. Upon the creation of the Black Panther Party, the 10-point platform program is drafted as the party's founding document. The Black Panther Party first publicized its original 10-point program on May 15, 1967, following the Sacramento action in the second issue of the Black Panther newspaper, which was already in circulation at this point. The original 10 points of what we want now follow. 1. We want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our black community. 2. We want full employment of our people. 3. We want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black community. 4. We want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. 5. We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in present-day society. 6. We want all black men to be exempt from military service. 7. We want an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people. 8. We want freedom for all black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. 9. We want all black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in a court by a jury of their peer group or people from their black communities as defined by the Constitution of the United States. 10. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. Though if we are to mention the newspaper, we should at least talk about the debut issue of the Black Panther newspaper. Why was Danzel Dowell killed? This was obviously meant to rally the people against the police in Richmond when the young African American was killed. On May 2nd, 1967, Party Chairman Seal led a cadre of Panthers shouldering firearms to march on the state capitol building in protest of a gun control law. Oh, how the times have changed. Of course, it should be noted that this piece of legislation was clearly targeted at the Black Panthers due to their habit of going out in patrols armed. The Black Panther would have many run-ins with the law, including the famous killing of a police officer named Frey by Huey Newton. Confrontations between the police and Panthers would become common, and after the FBI gets involved, the mass arrests of Panthers is also quite common. Though the party makes many passive moves aimed towards community outreach, such as their famous breakfast program and the school they open, hostilities from authorities would continue, leading to the arrest and the exile of party leadership. Shortly after the failed candidacy of Seal for mayor of Oakland, the party dissolved in 1982. 7 years later, Newton was shot to death in West Oakland. Thus ends the story of what is perhaps the closest this country has ever gotten to an actual revolution.